Are couples who survive really big challenges truly happier? The reason why we created this YouTube channel was to help couples build healthy relationships, happy marriages, and overcome really hard things. We asked a dear friend of ours, Dr. Jenna Mountain, to come talk with us about intimacy, and this statement came up that left us stunned. Are you saying that couples that experience big problems and then work through those problems are happier from your point of view than couples who never experience problems to begin with?
Those couples who really go all chips in to fix it, their marriages are more glorious and beautiful and intimate and astonishing than any average couple with a really great marriage.
Yeah.
Because they get forced into work by the pain and the not giving up. It's because we don't choose hard work unless we're forced to.
That's right.
Right, absolutely. I don't know a young married couple who opts into doing the level of work that my sexual pain and affair cases do.
We shared this moment on social media, and what happened next shocked us. Our humble social media account with 100 followers reached millions of people. A massive amount of stories came in of couples having faced the pain of cancer, navigating having children with disabilities, loss, but most of all, couples sharing stories of walking through affairs. It's one of the most painful things a couple can experience. It also happens to be the story of James and Teri, and why marriage health exists. Walking through challenges like this might seem impossible, unless you have someone to walk with you. These are the Crafts, James and Teri. They don't know how the internet works, anything about YouTube, TikTok, or social media. And that's okay, because they know a bit about something else: marriage. In fact, they've helped some of the most influential couples in the world, and they've also helped couples going through the hardest situations imaginable. The reason why James and Teri are able to help couples go through really hard things is because they've been through it themselves, and they came through the other side. The greatest marriage podcast ever, Marriage Health with James and Teri Craft. So, can a marriage heal after cheating?
Those who make it are all in, as if they're willing to cash in all their chips, and they're saying, this is my last resort to deal with this once and for all. I'll do whatever it takes, all in. And they could have been controlling in the past, a manipulator, a liar, cheater, but now they're done and they're all in, and they're not dictating what the next steps are. They're submitted to a process, and they're saying, hey, I'm out of control, so I'm giving all the control away. They give it up. They're the ones who make it. They've given up the way they've always done it because it hasn't worked. And they allow themselves to go on a journey of healing, do whatever it takes. The other ones who don't make it are the ones who continue to try to be in control. I'll sit down with a husband and I'll say, I need you to put covenant eyes or something like that on your phone. And like, well, that kind of slows my computer down. So, wouldn't you rather have a slower computer and have a healthy marriage? I mean, what kind of sacrifice? I mean, that's minute. It's nothing. Well, I don't want to have to meet every week. Okay. Well, then what do you want? You want it your way? Well, look where that's got you. Do you want to stay there? Those are the ones who don't make it because they always want to be in control. And you got to give up control. You got to give up control.
Well, I'll ask you, can a marriage heal after cheating?
Can a marriage heal after cheating? What did he say?
There is hope. You can do it. I say it this way. The pain on the outside has to increase more than the pain on the inside for change to take place.
He said yes.
Well, obviously, yes, I believe that. I'll probably bring a fair bit of our story in there too. Can a marriage heal after there's been cheating, infidelity, betrayal? Of course, I'm going to say yes, there's a possibility because I've seen that miracle in my own life and marriage. So yes, and yes, because that's always, our desire to see that. Does that happen all the time? Sometimes not.
Making it through a crisis is one thing, but going back to Dr. Jenna Mountain's statement, for those who decide to go all in, those who make it, how can a couple actually reach the point where their marriage is more beautiful after something so hard?
Well, Teri, you have a good perspective on that because you'd said to me as we were going through that process that something like it was healing, and this is the man I always prayed for. It was the potential of, and even though I still had areas of I was flawed, you're always going to have people say to you, are you sure you want to do this?
Yeah.
Because of their own pain, their own fear.
Yes.
And so they're actually speaking to you through their own crisis or their own pain.
Yeah.
Rather than speaking what actually hope actually was driving you forward.
For sure. If you're with somebody who's willing to try to do something different, I always encourage people, if it feels safe and if they are in 100%, then it's good to walk through what you can, because you're going to be able to witness and be a part of a cool transformational growth between yourself and them. And what if that's better than you ever thought, right? And I only say that because you and I, and again, we were 100% whole in, right? But I remember you looking at me and I looking at you and we're like, hi, my name's Teri. And you're like, hi, my name's James. We felt so different. We felt so undone, but yet rebuilt, that it was almost as if there was an exhilaration of us first meeting for the first time. Now, it doesn't mean that there wasn't scars, there wasn't pain.
Oh, there's scars and there's limps.
And there's,
just reminders.
Yeah. And I'm like, gosh, I'm so glad that we stuck it out.
Can I say thank you?
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's one of the best gifts you gave me.
I think at the end of the day, I gave it to myself. And
I know you did.
And I partnered with God.
Yeah. I remember when you told me, you said, James, I'll give you 1 year. Give you 1 year and we'll see what happens at the end of that year. And that was putting a healthy boundary up that I'm going to give you 1 year and just see what happens. And you can steward that year well, and something really cool can come out of this. Or you can squander it and you'll lose me. That's pretty much what you said to me.
Which to this day, I'm like, where did I get that strength back then?
I know.
I can definitely see me doing that now.
That was pretty awesome, though. Because I said, I want to steward that year well.
And I can also remember partway through looking at you going, James, I don't need you anymore, but I want you.
You want me, yeah. Oh, yeah. Start crying.
This is the first time James and Teri have really shared about their journey in this kind of way, and they haven't made the journey alone. Because they've walked back, found thousands of other couples, and walked with them in their journeys too. Many of those couples have gone on to have beautiful families. Some, James and Teri, have advised to go separate ways. It's an all or nothing journey that's not fit for everyone. This is what the journey looks like.
We work with so many couples that are walking through crisis. I know that you and I have developed a way to approach it in sort of what we would consider taking steps. Like, we get that there's so much pain and there's so much confusion right now, and it's easy to make really long-term decisions right now. But how about we don't make really long-term decisions as long as you can get to the point where you feel stabilized.
Yeah.
You both feel safe enough to walk another step. But it's not like we go from this to complete divorce and separation or whatever. It's like, if you think you can hold out for a little bit more, maybe we get to the truth. Let's get to the whole truth. Can you tolerate the whole truth? For something like cheating, we call it betrayal, trauma. There's many words for it, infidelity, affairs. There's a huge story that oftentimes leads up to this. And so you've got this, we call it a crash scene. It's literally like there's just mangled wreckage everywhere. And oftentimes, there's this need for us to figure out right away whose fault it was that this accident, this crash scene occurred. What we really want our listeners to understand, if you're sitting out there and you're going, what do I do next? When we're dealing with a crisis like this, we have to move first to stabilization. We want to be able to have the conversations of, well, you didn't do this and that's why I did this. Really, honestly, no one makes somebody lie. No one makes someone go out and have an affair or find someone to meet needs that you feel like aren't being met. No one makes somebody do that. There's a huge amount of space that's in between marital problems and then lying and cheating. So the most important thing at the beginning is stabilization. So sometimes we don't dive into the under the water line. You'll hear me talk about that a lot, under the water line. That's like the stuff that sort of creates some of the problem that maybe we've come to, our childhood traumas, our adaptive strategies, the way that we see the world, maybe our own health and challenges. There's a lot of stuff underneath the surface that we'll get to, but we can't get to that yet. Going to be working at what's at like the top, right above the water line. And that's like the stuff we can see. And at that point, it's like, okay, first we've got to understand, do you both want to repair this? Do you both want to work on this? Even if it's messy and hard. And so we'll kind of push into that. I know it's scary and I know it's difficult, but are you willing to be curious? Right? And if there's abuse structure, if there's things that are unsafe, of course, we're going to be really, really careful with the partner who's gone through the betrayal trauma. It's like, hey, like if you don't feel safe for your physical safety, your emotional safety, your family, I mean, if there's some safety issues, then we're going to say, wow, just right now, we need to create safety. And that might mean that you need to remove yourself from the situation immediately. So of course, we're going to always, work toward stabilizing and getting safety. But we always just want to establish, what's the level of, sort of desire to see this walk out. Now, of course, there's two different spectrums here. One person's like, I'm so angry, I'm so hurt, I'm so devastated, I don't know what I want. I feel like my body's gone through an F5 tornado. Then you've got another person who might be feeling all sorts of other feelings. Maybe it's, oh gosh, I've just been found out, and there could be some self-preservation. There could be some kind of maybe it's a victimization, like they made me do this. This is all these years of XYZ, and that's why, and it's their fault. There's all these things that might be happening on that spectrum too, that are often a result of a lot of things that are underneath the water. But we can't deal with all those yet. We have to first say, do you want to do this? If you do, then you're going to show up here again next week, and we're going to work through this, and we're going to get to the truth.
I was unfaithful in my marriage, and I had an addiction to pornography. And now I'm able to, after many years of just really working in my life, it's to be able to say, that's what I did, it's not who I am. Big difference. Because so many people will say this, no, that's who you are. You're a cheater, and you'll always be a cheater. We have to get on a different path and start the restorative work, and really allow ourselves to reestablish a new DNA line in our lives. That new DNA line becomes the new reality. You might be thinking, but guy, all I can see him or her as is a cheater. Yeah. Because that's what they did. But ultimately, if there's a path being pursued for healing, you'll start to see them differently, because you start to see that new person being lived out, and that becomes that new DNA line. And that new DNA line becomes the new reality. You have family members that are just pissed off and they're throwing judgment. They're like, you know what? This will never be the same again. And I'll just tell you this, you're right. It will never be the same again. How do you feel about that? Because you could hear that terminology, it will never be the same, in two different ways. One, it's never going to be the same again because it's hell to pay, and that's our punishment. Or you can see it this way, man, it's never going to be the same again because we're on a path that's going to lead us into a place of healing, and we've never experienced this before because we've always been in our hurt, in our trauma, in our pain. And so you're right, it's never going to be the same again. It's going to be a different experience. It's going to be something that's filled with hope. Maybe, right? Yes, that's the reality. So you can see things in two different ways. It's never going to be the same again, or it's never going to be the same again. The second is going to take a lot of work. It's going to take time. It's going to take a miracle on a daily basis. But man, when you work through that and you get on the other side of that, you can look back and say, look at this, man. It's never going to be the same again. This is so much better. Because, man, I dealt with all the pain. I dealt with all the trauma. I dealt with all the hurt of my past. And, man, I'm able to give you something that I've never been able to give you before. You know, I've had conversations with people where they use this terminology. Cheaters will cheat again. And, yeah, they will. They sure will. And they'll continue to do it over and over and over again. Unless they're willing to dive deep into the inner workings of their life and deal with the reason and the root of why they're cheating. See, we don't just wake up one day and say, oh, hey, I want to be a cheater today, and I want to destroy my wife's life. And you know what? I just want to lose my whole family, and I want to lose everything I have. It's the last thing someone wakes up thinking. And it's a slow fade that people find themselves into this place. Because when a couple is married or they come together for the first time, there's a deep love and compassion and connection that they have with one another. They have behavior systems that they have developed from their childhood. And all of a sudden, that behavior system, you know, when the honeymoon phase is over, that behavior system becomes the primary focus. They start to self-preserve. They start to protect themselves from being hurt. That could be in the relationship in their marriage, or that could be in a relationship with their work and their success in their careers. And they start to deal with that pain. Then they start to slowly fade away. Without dealing with that, it's like you're off 1%. Well, if I was to leave from New York and I wanted to go to London and I'm on a ship to go over there and I'm off 1%, where do I end up at? Is it down by Spain? And I'm off completely, and you find yourself in a whole nother world. Here's the bottom line. If you continue to be 1% off in your life, yeah, you're going to cheat again. Because you never dealt with the course correction to stay on course to where you're supposed to be. You never dealt with the internal issues, the pain, the hurt, the rejection, the failure, those wounds, those traumas. And it's hard work. Yes, it's hard work. If a couple comes to us, let's say the husband cheated, and I just use that for an example because I'm speaking because that was my story. And all of a sudden they're faced with this reality of the wife is like, man, is my husband going to do this again? If there is not an intentional, deliberate, and aggressive, I say aggressive in a positive way, plan to bring healing to one's life, I say yes. Percentages are very high. And statistics will support that. But if someone is willing and then has a great support team, or she does, and they have an intentional strategic plan, and they have God doing a miracle in their life on a daily basis, man, miracles can happen. And I can tell you this right now, I've seen it many, many, many times where couples can be restored and have an incredible life together. But it takes a lot of intentionality and a lot of work.
Marriage Health with James and Teri Kraft. If you feel like you need someone to come alongside you, a coach or a counselor, reach out to us. The link is in the description.